Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. I see you've been traveling all about.
A little bit more than normal. Yes, just winning that contest with Lisa to go to San Diego wasn't in my plan, but I'll take it. And yeah, and then we've just been very busy in Alberta, launching a new. One of the sassy terms you'll come to learn is don't change your act, change your audience.
Yes, yes.
So,
I've been talking to myself about that.
So I literally took her own advice, and about a year ago, I started plans to recreate our agency in a different province. So the launch of that. So it's a division, and
Mm-hmm.
a joint venture with, well, actually, funny enough, a bit like you, joint venture with another great person.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so our launch was Wednesday, and
Awesome.
we already have 5 potential clients. So.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, that when you're looking at it, you're like, well, this is applicable across, different areas. It's just a matter of, getting the first one solid.
Yeah.
And getting that system down. And that's what I was really working on. And when I had gone to the Monetize Your Mission in October with Lori, I was really looking at it from a perspective of, okay, this is what we do together, and this is how we can present what we're doing together.
Yeah.
But how can I get really clear on what I'm doing and the type of client I want to work with? Because I've done so many different things in the past that I was really suffering from multiple client disorders. So I wasn't, I had to medicate myself. So, really getting clear on who I wanted to work with.
Yes.
So, and I was also talking to some of the other, the other students, and going through and meeting with them. And one of the other ladies I was talking to, Tanya, she says she used to be a flight attendant or stewardess for years. I think she's from Australia. Or no, yeah. And so she was saying, I've already written a book, and I've already got the slideshow together, and I was going to take another class. And I said, listen, I think that you and I are living in the same world. It's like, I'm addicted to classes, and I just have to put myself on the wagon, because I will take classes forever and ever and ever, but it's the actual doing.
Yes.
And I needed to get clear on who I wanted to work with, so I can focus on converting them.
Totally. Because
what I had noticed was I had started doing the Speak to Sell system back in August.
Okay.
I had done done the online Nail Your Offer and Speak to Sell Bootcamp. So I started to do that in August, and I noticed I went from getting everybody just saying, oh, you're doing a great job, to converting, first one was about 10% of the room.
Yeah.
And then they, to get them to do a qualified free session. And actually, from the people who signed up to the people who actually met with me, that was about 10%. And then the next one that I did, I ended up with 25%. And that was a switch your audience. So I didn't switch what I was saying, but I did switch the audience. I went from talking to entrepreneurs who had their own businesses to talking to people who were employees.
Okay.
So I was talking to women, professional women that were, 40 to 55 years old.
Yeah.
And once I got into that, it was like, bam, 25% conversion.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that was just from one talk to the next talk. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? It was like same content, just different audience.
That's brilliant.
And then what I was finding is, well, they're talking to me, but then I'm not closing them. And what I found was I was doing too much coaching. So then when I went to the live event in October, I was like, oh, it's because I'm coaching them at the session instead of letting them talk about what they need and letting them feel the pain. Because I was like, you've got too much pain here. Let's fix this.
You mean just what I'm doing right now?
Exactly. And so then going to the next, and then coming back from Monetize Your Mission, first client I talked to that I had, was already going to do a qualified session with her from an event that I had done prior, closed her and got a contract for 3 months.
That's fantastic.
So I can see, like, just as you're talking about with, changing your audience, but then being very specific about what I'm doing and then following through on the system actually is the best, the best way to go. And I think, and the other part of was like, oh, it's simple. It's just not easy to get out of your own head enough to be like, well, I should be doing all of these other things. No, if you just do this little piece in a system, then it works. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Right. Yeah. So
did Lisa talk I didn't make every session because I have this meeting, but did she talk about the Mexican cantina menu?
No.
When you go to the Cheesecake Factory and it's like insane. And most people talk about the size of the menu, but realistically it's beef, chicken, and fish with rice, potatoes, or salad, and a few different sauces.
Right, but it's all different combinations of the same thing.
Yeah, and I think we can get overly. I think you've nailed it. I think we can get overly complicated on what it is we can do for people when really what you're really gifted at and what they need is an exact match. We just have to package it in such a way that, because there's so many different types of, like the multiple client disorder you mentioned. We have to
when Lisa Cherney was saying that, I'm like, stop looking at me. Stop looking at me. I know you're looking, like you're looking right at me with laser eyes. It's me.
Yeah. That's just too funny. Yeah, she's a smart cookie.
And I think that the other piece of it is like, it's simple what I do, but also looking at the type of client that was willing to sign a contract with me, even though it was very painful for her to come up with the money, was, as far as like, it was enough money that it was very uncomfortable for her. But she is also the kind of client that I can talk to about using her intuition or meditation or, those kind of more metaphysical things where I don't have to explain what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, blending some of that in with what I do, because that's a big part of how I work.
Yes.
With people. And I'll say things to them like, yeah, I think your mom is haunting you. And you really need to clear out the stuff from her estate. And she's just like, you're right, she is haunting me. But if I said that to somebody else, they would be like, okay, crazy lady, can't talk to you. Like, but I can tell she had gotten her mom's house her mom had just passed. She moved into the house. And even without her telling me, I knew that it was full of her mom's things. And she was really struggling with making it her own.
Yeah.
At the same time as growing her business. And I said, you have too much clutter in your life. So, you have to,
that is really cool.
So doing things like that, where I can freely say something like that to somebody and not have them go pray for me. Right? Like, oh, Maria hears voices. We better pray for her. Everybody, let's start a prayer chain. Maria's going to the devil. But, because but that's the kind of thing I was really struggling with, because I do some channeling and intuitive work with people.
Yeah.
But I don't want to advertise as a medium or a psychic.
Got it. Yeah.
But I do like working with those people, but I like to work with them when they're already in business. Not, you know what I mean? Not like some of the people that like, oh, I read tarot, but they do it and they do it in secret, or they don't make a business of it, because there's a lot of people who do that, but it's
and then they charge $5.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty,
but they don't hold a value in it because they had to keep it secret for so long.
Yes.
So, that's kind of where I really started to focus in on, and that's what I've been working on since I've been back, is going through and really creating my USB and my offer
That is
around
awesome.
that kind of client.
Yeah.
Because, you know, because everybody else I'd worked with in the past had been more of more professional women that had English as a second language.
Right. Yes. Yes.
That were coming here, and, you know, because their husbands had a job and they didn't have a job.
I remember you saying, yeah.
And so, you know, and I did that work, and I thought, well, that's the kind of person I wanted to work with 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, or maybe even 2 years ago.
Yes.
But now I don't want to invest that kind of time into that, because I thought, oh, I can do that, and I could make, you know, I could have a lot of clients doing that. But the energy piece of it is like you're involved with the whole damn family at that point, and it is too, you know, it's too much. So,
how much work do Laurie and you do together? I mean, I love the story of the fact that she said, "Get your ass to the island, and then we could talk," and you did. I mean, I love that about you.
Yeah, I was like, "What's it gonna?" And she's like, "What's it gonna take?" I was like, "What's it gonna take for me to work with you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm doing a retreat in March. Get over here. You know, you get yourself here, and you can teach at the retreat." And I'm like, "When is it?" And I'm like, she's over here on Facebook, and I'm over here on Expedia. Like, when? You know, what day? And she's like, "Well, we're working on this day or this day," and I'm looking at flights, and I'm like, "Well, I can be here from," because we wanted to do it Saturday to Saturday, and I booked it.
Wow.
And
it's good to hear that. I love it.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I think so 90 days from the day that I had started actually coaching with her and met her on Facebook Live, 90 days later, I was in the plane headed to meet her.
It's so interesting that I've actually been to her island. I mean, I don't think she meets many people who have actually been there.
I know. And I think that's because it's such a popular destination out of Europe.
Yeah.
And so we would see a lot more people if they're from Europe, mostly, that have been there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so March, I was there for about 2 weeks doing a retreat with her. And then she came here to Michigan in May. We did 43 events in May. 43 events we attended together in May. 3 of them were events that we put on ourselves. And then she went back, came in July, and then like midway through July, so like the 15th of July until the 15th of November, we were doing a series of events here. So,
and she's just been at Jeff Walker last week as well. I think I saw her.
Yes,
right?
yes,
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, her. They've been doing the PLLF Launch Club for 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely see me sharing Jeff's stage. It's in my intentions. As I share, I mean, you saw me do a little piece with Lisa. Typically, I do 20 minutes, but she changed it up a bit to have a couple of other people do it instead. Yeah, we had a lot more impact when we did it. So,
well, and I think that's the thing, as you're going through and testing it and tweaking it, and then you're like, okay, how does this work? How does this, like, what are your metrics?
Yeah.
Like, as you're going through, and that's where as we've kept track of things, that's what I'm like, okay, this worked, and then on this date I switched this, and then this was my conversion, and on this date I switched this, and this was my conversion, and the switch was the audience.
Yeah, right.
And the people who actually responded in the other audience with the entrepreneurs were actually employees, not entrepreneurs. They were employees who were using a co-working space that was for entrepreneurs.
Right.
So the meeting they were in, they were actually employees. And then I said, well, I wonder if it's because they're employees. Bam, next one I go to, all employees. And then I more than doubled my response rate.
Wow.
But then also focusing on looking at most of the ladies who respond well to me are 40 to 55 years old. Love
that. They're my ideal clients too, actually.
Yep. So they're 40 to 55. They're either they're professional. They've worked professionally, but they've not done as much as they're capable of. And they've kind of played a backseat to their husband or being a mom, and they've settled. It's good enough. it's good enough because my husband makes this much money. It's good enough because he makes that money, and my kids, I have to do soccer, and I have, family obligations. But they hit 40, in between 40 and 55, kids are either graduating from high school or college, and all of a sudden it's an empty nest, and they've got all this time, and they're like, well, what about me?
Mm.
So I see that that's my highest impact, are those ladies that are, they've kind of just backpedaled a little bit. They haven't really gone for it because they're supporting their husband and they're supporting their family. And something happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually not just the kids leaving, it's the kids leaving followed by health crisis of some sort.
Well, they're getting perimenopausal, aren't they?
Yep, they
Not
are.
Want to yeah, I mean, my wife's 50. I mean, I know exactly.
Yep, and on top of it, somebody's sick. Parent is sick. Husband has diagnosed with a chronic health condition. All of a sudden, things change, and then they're focused. But that's the pain they're in. Like I noticed.
But nobody's feeding them, right?
No, and they're getting to that point where it's like, okay, what about me? Because now they're seeing especially I've noticed too, when they see their daughter doing something that resonates with them, whether like their daughter's getting married or their daughter's graduating from college, and they see all of this possibility for their daughter, and they're like, what happened to me? What happened to my whole life?
Oh,
and
gosh.
You know what I mean? Like, but they're seeing it from a different way. So they're happy. Not that they're in any way not loving to their daughters or their children. It's just that they all of a sudden feel their own mortality. And
yeah. You're preaching to the choir, sister.
Yeah. So that's where I see my real target, because the younger ones are too busy having kids and like trying to stay alive. Like they're just trying to stay alive because they're cooking and cleaning and chasing after kids, and they're exhausted. They're mentally and physically exhausted. You can't even reach them because they're drowning.
Yeah. I get that.
So, that's where I found, I'm like, okay, it is. And I kept testing it and testing it and testing it. And it is that market over and over and over again. They're the ones that keep coming, like that are really drawn to me.
So are you physically networking to find these people, or do you have more of an online machine that's creating these leads?
I'm with all the people that I've been meeting have been through my chamber connections. So in my professional, National Association of Career Women, I've been on the board of the chamber here in the US and then also in Canada. So with doing that, I get a lot of opportunities for networking and meeting people.
Perfect.
And most of that has all been me either speaking or being part of a board in a networking group.
Got it.
And I haven't really done.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't really gotten the online piece of it together. Like they like to watch me. I know they're all watching me because they're like, oh, I've been watching you travel and this and that. So I know they watch me. It's just getting that other piece of it for engagement and conversion. And that's why I was like, yeah, doing this, speaking from stage, I can get the people and going through this system and being very focused on and intentional on what I want, I can get the people.
Got it. Yep.
Then, getting the system built of like all of the content that I already have. Well, then if I'm able to get all of that piece together and testing it and delivering it live, converting, and I'm tracking it as I'm converting it live, so that then next year I can get into the launch of actually doing it virtually.
Got it. Yeah.
So, with the intention of like, okay, I'm testing it and tweaking it and creating it and doing everything live, and then inserting pieces of the virtual as I go and testing it. And then I'm like, yeah, then within the year, I'll be able to launch it and do this virtually versus, being out one-on-one and.
Yes. Yeah. Which takes so much time.
Well, at time, and then you're stuck in a place.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was that person. And it was interesting that through my, I don't know if you know my story, but I do this because I have a big scar on my neck.
Mm-hmm.
2009, I had major surgery on my neck from a car accident. And I spent a year convalescing while this titanium recreated neck of mine sort of placed itself and settled in and stuff. And that's how I got into social media, because I wasn't able to network physically. And I was doing all the things that you were doing. The whole circuit of BNIs and chambers and business associations. I mean, I was there and well known and regularly speaking. Take yourself out of the loop for almost 12 months. Well, you can't drive. My energy's gone. My income's gone. So there is me and Mr. Facebook in 2008. So like, So by mid 2009, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube were my best buddies, because that's the only way I could kind of
communicate
and stay my. And I got picked up by an e-zine at the time called Marketing Dangerously. And it's great market. He just always talked about those edgy marketing campaigns that were almost on the edge of like, oh, you shouldn't have said that, but you did, and you got away with it, sort of thing. And he'd find these campaigns every week. And I became their social media expert. So for a year, I wrote for this. Well, I wrote for it for 3 years, but the first year specifically, I just wrote about what is Facebook. You know, why would you think of this? Is before business pages. This is before people realized it wasn't just a fad for kids, and you know. And after that, suddenly my audience changed dramatically. And now probably not even 20% of our business is local. And almost all of the business comes, I mean, podcasts, webinars, Lisa's Stage, or events like Lisa's Stage. And my social media strategy is working 24/7 globally. And the requests that I get for strategy sessions with people who I don't even know, but by the time I get the form and I can see where they're at and I do my research, they pretty much want to work with me. All I have to decide is, do I want to work with them? I mean, it's not being rude, but I have to work with somebody that I think is a fit. And my strategy takes work. And some people say, oh, well, if I just do some Google AdWords and I just pay some money for this and I just smile at this, then it's going to be great, right? I'll be on page 1 of Google. I went, no. There's a lot of work. I mean, don't compare my middle to your beginning and think it's easy. And if they're willing to do the work and they have some resources, obviously, and I feel that I can help them. I mean, I can help anybody, but I have to feel that I can help them in terms of that emotional connection piece. You know, whether they have a spiritual background, whether they, you know, really appreciate family, are very key to whether I can work with them, because that's who I am.
Well, you can't turn it off.
No, you can't.
You can't.
I've tried, and it doesn't work.
And then you just feel sick and miserable.
Yeah, I mean, the very powerful ladies who are just they don't care about feelings. They just care about, you know, results. It's like, yep, you're not my client. The guys who are all into sport and hanging out at the weekend and, you know, how many beers did they have? Yeah, not my client. But that, it's, I want to coin a phrase, but that heart-centered entrepreneur who really cares about more than money, but has a mission. And is willing to do the work and has a quirky sense of humor. They're my gal, you know, and probably 80% of my clients are female. But, you know, I have 3 daughters. I'm married. I mean, I get it, you know. I'll have a pedicure with the best of anybody.
Well, I think that's what you're comfortable with, because that's your life, and it's easier to integrate that because that's something that's already natural to you. And
people appreciate who I am. I mean, you've seen my social media and got a bit of my story now, and like even my 7 minutes. I mean, the majority was, you know, my wife and my daughter's wedding, you know, in my little talk there, and that's the 2 most important things to me. I mean, I have a great business and the agency is doing phenomenal, but if it came down to it, they're my two whys. I mean, my third why is money, but family and my wife are my first 2. And it's good.
And that's the fun. I think that's the fun part about having your own business that you've built. Yeah. Because then you make it's uniquely for you, and then you get, and that's one of the things that I was working on. I think about a year ago, I kept writing in my journal, how do I get paid to be me?
I
And
love that. Yeah.
how do I get paid to be me?
Yes.
And because that's where you get the traction. That's where you get the action and the
Yes.
motivation, is because it's already you. You don't have to go and
Exactly.
research it and figure it out, because you don't have to like go and do all of this in-depth market research about women your wife's age and daughters and women your
Yeah.
daughter's age, because they're living with you. Like, you've
Yeah.
been doing market research for 20 some years, being married to her.
And when someone says to me, "What's that Snapchat thing?" I went, "Oh, let me show you."
Mm-hmm.
How do you know this? I said, "It's the only way I can communicate with my 20-year-old."
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
But then it's something that you can integrate
Mm-hmm.
into your life, and
So
that's where.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how about you and family? I know a little bit about you and what you do, but I don't know Maria.
Oh yeah, I have an interesting family. So my older daughter is 26,
Mm-hmm.
and she's married and has 2 children. So I have 2 grandchildren,
Oh,
a
lovely.
granddaughter and a grandson, and then a son-in-law, which is interesting. But it's they've been together for probably 12 years. They met in high school, and they've been together for a really long time. And then my younger two are 7 and 8. So I have a 7-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son.
Whoa, that's a bit of a gap.
Yep. So I have,
Good for you.
yeah. So it's interesting. Sometimes I have fun in grocery stores, because I'll take all of the kids with me. So I'll have sometimes my older daughter, and then her 2 children, and then my 2 children, and I'm getting a lot of moms, right? Mom, 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 mom. And somebody will walk up to me and say, which one of these are which ones of these are yours? I'm like, they're all mine. And I just keep on going. And because they're trying to figure out, like, the older one's calling me mom, there's younger ones calling me mom.
Yes.
And I've got all these kids in a cart. What's going on? And I'm just laughing, like, yeah, they're all mine. And I just keep on going.
Good for you.
So, and it's like, and I think that I get a lot of curiosity from people because of that. With my older daughter, and then my granddaughter and my son are the same age. So my son is 8,
Right.
my granddaughter's 8, and then I have a 7-year-old daughter and then a 3-year-old grandson. So it makes it really interesting. My husband was in the military for 22 years, and now he works for Customs and Border Protection. So
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so it was U.S. military police with the Army for 22 years, and then at the end of that, he went reserves and then started working for Customs.
Yep.
So,
I live 3 miles from the U.S. border, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you see that cloud line?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why but that literally is the Washington State border.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
3 miles from border CBA or whatever it is, Canadian border. So CBS is this side, and the American on the other side. So, yes, I know it so well.
Yeah, and then traveling back and forth. Well, we're here on the border of Michigan and Ontario.
Yep.
So we're on the other side of Sarnia.
Okay.
So that's where a lot of, going back and forth. I was on the board in the Chamber of Port Huron, and then liaison to the board in Sarnia.
Oh, nice.
And so I would go back and forth. No one else wanted to go across the border. And I already had it. I just got a Nexus card, and just go back and forth. And I got the kids' Nexus cards when they were little, because his family is actually all from north of Toronto.
Okay.
So they're
married to a
all
Canadian.
kind of like,
yeah,
he's dual citizen. So he was born in California, but his parents were both Canadian citizens.
Oh,
so they're from Kingston, Ontario. So kind of midway between Toronto and Ottawa.
Yeah, I know it.
So then they went to California back in the 60s for work, Northern California, and then that's where both he and his brother were born. So, but all of his cousins and aunts and uncles are all Canadian. So we do a lot of travel back.
Great mix.
Yeah. So to me, I'm like, who cares? I got a Nexus card. I'll go over to Sarnia and do some networking.
Good for you.
And so but I've had since 1997 a U.S. Customs brokerage license to import and export freight. So I worked for the company that's now owned by UPS, and I would travel. I'd call these guys all the time. Like, you know what? I'm coming to Toronto. Who's going to be around this Friday night? I'm going to come to Toronto. So I ended up going in and spending the weekend in Toronto. I don't know, 20. I think I was 20 at the time. And just drove over and spent the weekend in Toronto with a bunch of people that I met. I always talk to them on the phone. So I've always been like, since I've lived here, I'm like, well, why not?
Yes.
You're 3 hours away. I'll just hop in the car and
Yep.
drive over. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I talk to you more than I talk to my own family.
Exactly.
So, for me to get in the car and drive, or get in the plane and go somewhere, if I'm curious, then I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to figure out a way to do it. So,
got it.
but,
I'm loving it already. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got,
Similar.
so a lot of my background has been in logistics. So I worked for the company that's now owned by UPS and DHL. I handled all of their customer service department that was handling all of their inbound freight from Europe and Asia. So we were remotely processing everything that was coming into JFK, LAX, O'Hare, Long Beach, and the port in New York.
Wow.
So I did that for a while. Then I got a master's degree, and I started working in an oncology office.
Holy crow.
So yeah, I've got a lot of background in different things. So I worked at the oncology office for about 2 years and helped them get through a crisis situation. And then went and taught at the local college, for a couple of years until I had my son. And then I stayed home with him for 3 years. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Well, I already have a master's degree in property management experience. So I got a real estate brokerage license and opened a brokerage company and started selling houses on the side while my son was little. And then once they were both in school, I'm like, well, I was just kind of doing that to make some money without getting another degree or getting another certification. What do I really want to do? And I looked at the pattern of everything I've done throughout my professional career. It's all really been coaching people, mentoring people, and acting as a consultant for the companies that I worked with. And it's usually been I've been hired in a crisis situation to fix something.
Right.
Or help with something that they don't know what to do. Like, okay, we're trying to keep the union out of JFK and Chicago and LA. So what do we do? Well, we're going to open an office in Port Huron where there's not a union and we can pay people less. Didn't know that was what was going on at the time, but it was like, okay, we want to centralize all of our customer service. And it was DHL, which is owned by Deutsche Post. And they had just been bought by Deutsche. Yep. And they had just been bought out by Deutsche Post. Okay. So it was like, okay, how do we do that? So all the standard operating procedures and manuals and hiring and training and all that.
Okay. Yeah.
And then going into the oncology office, they had a same manager for 15 years. And then one day they had a big padlock on their door because she hadn't paid the taxes. Well, then she hadn't been opening mail for a year. She'd had health crisis and had just not been doing what she was supposed to be doing. So then they didn't really start researching it until, the door was padlocked by the city because they hadn't paid their taxes. So I got hired to come in and right the ship and get things back up and running.
Wow. You're a powerhouse right there.
So then I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then going payroll. Yeah, of course. Well, that was the thing. Like she would pay the payroll, but that was it.
Yeah.
So then, but that's why she didn't get caught, for almost a year. So, I was realizing, I'm actually doing things that they pay consultants to do. I'm just doing it. I was just hired as an employee. Yeah. And then the people that I was working with, I was actually coaching and mentoring them, but I was doing it as their manager and not as a coach. And I'm like, well, I can make a hell of a lot more money doing this as a coach or a consultant versus a W-2 employee. Yep. And that's where I just said, you know what?
You're a smart lady.
So that's how it kind of over time just evolved with what I've been doing. But having the second group of kids.
Yes.
Really made a huge difference in what I was doing, because if I wouldn't have had my younger two children, I would have stayed working in an office. I would have stayed as an employee. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
that was my habit. I was already
Yeah.
I was already a manager. I was already moving, I was already moving up in the company and was getting promotions and doing different things. I would have just stayed working for a company. But it was really that thought of, well, how am I going to work 50 hours plus a week, plus travel with children? Well, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm 35 years old and I'm having another kid. The hell I'm going to travel. I'm, and do all this nonsense and take calls at 2 a.m. No, I will not. So that was where I said, you know what, I'm going to stay home with them for a couple of years and then I'll look at it and see what I want to do. And then by the time my son was 3 and my daughter was 1.5 years, I said, okay, I'm ready to, I think I've slept a full night now after 3 years. I think I'm ready to go.
Totally know what you mean. Yeah.
Got out of that sleep deprivation loop and I was like, oh, I think I can do something now.
Got it. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I can see your speak to cell talk, unfolding here already. Yeah.
And then I finally slept for 8 hours after 3 years.
Oh, I'd love to sleep for 8 hours. I might tonight, actually. I have, for once, I don't have a Saturday morning meeting, and I'm not a workaholic, but I'm just in high growth mode. And for me, this 5 years that I'm in, I see myself in year 2 of the 5. To me, like my prime real estate years. For getting out there and working and making enough of a difference so that by the time I get to 55, which is my goal, is that I can start to just really not slow down, but have enough delegated that I don't have to, and then just concentrate on what I really love to do, which is speaking. And the speaking brings in the leads, and then I have enough of a team around me so that it all gets done without me having to physically do it. And that's been my goal.
I had sold real estate for Keller Williams, and that's exactly the millionaire real estate model.
Oh, okay.
That you're talking about. That's exactly what they talk about is you build the system over 5 years. And if you do all these things over 5 years, in the 5th year, you're running a business. Someone else you own the business and they're running the business for you.
Exactly right.
And but that's even as a real estate agent. So it's exactly the 5-year model is this. Exactly.
I hadn't actually thought of it from a real estate comparison perspective, but I know. So we have you might have met Lindsay, who was with me in LA. My wife Debbie was there, but we had 2 other members of our team, Lindsay and Susan. So Lindsay is my head of web design and branding and content marketing, and then Susan is my new business partner for Alberta. So I'm getting them all sassified so that they totally get when I say, they just need to work on the LPP, and I went, the leverage progression plan.
Okay. Yep. Exactly.
I mean, I don't use that jargon when I'm working with clients, but that's how I've done over 7 figures additionally since I joined the system. Not join Lisa's program, but being able to really leverage her system. Genius. I mean, the lady is super smart. But what I found is there are big chunks of her system that don't exist. So the principles that she teaches are fantastic, but the practicals, they're not there. So that's why she brings people like Sue Zimmerman on stage to talk about Instagram and box out marketing to talk about lead gen, because even though she's got the principle, they don't have the practical. It's like, you need a website that converts. You need to know social media like there's no tomorrow. So it's the same as going to a chamber. And that's where there's been a perfect synergy between what she teaches and what I do. For people that I meet at Sassy. And I love to meet people. I love to build a relationship. And as and when they're ready and I can see that, then we have another conversation. So how's this working out? Well, I know I've got my UBS. I know who my ideal client is. I just need more clients. So how's that working for you? Well, I'm going to this BII and I'm going to this, I'm going to that. And I said, and you're burnt out? And she said, yep.
Then you're ready.
How would it be if, my favorite phrase is, if I call you, I'm a salesman. But if you call me, I'm an expert.
Right.
Where do you want to be? And it's like, I want to be the expert. I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. And it's been great. It's been great. So how much time do you spend with Lori as part of your model?
Part of it is usually we do the retreat in March.
Yeah.
So that's like a 10-day thing in March, 10-day deal in March. And then we do events, then we do an event in October. So we've got like two main events that we do together.
Yeah.
Kind of one in the spring and one in the fall. And then the rest of the time, it's kind of like when she needs me to do something, then
so did you actually join the full mastermind, or was it just Laurie that joined? Or did she bring you in as a second person? No.
She joined the full mastermind, and then I went and joined into the coaching
advantage.
Yeah, the Speak to Sell Advantage coaching, because I thought about doing the mastermind, but I was just like, I have to get stronger on the base of what I'm doing before I go onto the mastermind. Yeah,
because there is a way of bringing in a partner to Sassy, which is a lot less money as well. I don't know if you know that, but you might want to look at that at another point if Laurie stays around to write her ticket. I mean, I know you have separate businesses, but I think for the Sassy perspective, that would still work for you because you're so closely connected on certain areas. You might be able to get that sort of second ticket at it's over half price or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, okay, let me really look at what do I need to focus on and make sure that I'm focusing on what I want to do, because the other piece of it is I can help her build a lot of things, but then what does it do for me? And not in a negative way, but say like, if that's something that she's doing, that's fine, and I can help her with that, but then it still isn't the purpose of what I truly want to do. Although I enjoy it and I think it's a good thing, it's not my burning desire to do that.
Okay, I got the landscape. Yeah, I have 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, please.
And then I have to move on. But so in the next 5 minutes, how specifically could I help you? Let's do some coaching or whatever you need to know, or need to know a bit more about what we offer. But how can I give you the best 5 minutes?
Okay. And can you explain to me because I've got the like what you do for a platform. Like I know that you do Facebook and you do YouTube and different media, and then you set me up a calendar of like when you should post and that sort of thing.
That's a little bit of it. Yeah.
I know that's just like a teeny tiny bit of like, this is my free download lead magnet, like this is my lead magnet. So I know that's a small piece of what you do, but on a broader scope, what is it? Like a monthly service that you work on? Is it a yearly program that you work on? Like how is it structured?
Yes and yes. So yes, we do all of those things. Predominantly, my ideal scenario is it depends on people's time availability, but where we have the greatest results is where we work with somebody who already has a working model. The bandwidth just needs to be expanded dramatically, and because of that expanding of the bandwidth, what people need to be able to do is that when they arrive on your Facebook or your LinkedIn profile or your website, because I think each of them are their own entity. Do they really get who you are, what you do, and the value that they could bring by hiring you? So my big thing really is that digital story leading to digital conversion. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. Obviously, having a very active, I mean, you've seen me on Facebook for the last week or so. You can, there's a real strategy behind how I use Facebook. And I don't want to use the word use. But I would say
it's a tool. It's like a hammer. You're going to use it.
But the way I take my journey through Facebook is very genuine. I mean, this is real. I'm not saying I only do this because I get paid and pay me. I mean, I do it because I enjoy it. But what happens is the way I talk about it, and I've stylized it over 9 years. I mean, I get so many people, by the time they call me, they already know they want to work with me because they've seen what I do. And I don't sell. I do not sell on Facebook at all. Occasionally I'll have an event that I'll tell people about. My LinkedIn's the opposite. My LinkedIn is like, these are the things that we do. These are the people that recommended me. But I still have some fun with it, but it's more business focused. Whereas my website, I hope, is very much around the service offerings and the difference that we make.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference that we make really is that when we get to work with a phenomenal person who's super gifted and is willing to do the work, is we help them write a unique digital strategy that works for them. And it can take at least 3 months to sort of really hone that, and then probably another 3 months of leverage. And by the time we get to the 6 to 9 month period, it's making a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So we balance some SEO into that equation. We bring, I'm really not an AdWords person. People think I'm a Facebook AdWords expert. I'm not that keen on them right now. They're expensive, they're crowded, and the best realistically you can do is take a medium to cold, warm lead, get them into a webinar, and hope that that funnel system will work. I'm much more about ripple effect and just really leveraging the people that are around you and who they know, and the more ripples in the more ponds that you can create, the more opportunity. So that's how I do it, and we do it in 3 different ways. We have a top level VIP platinum program where we work white glove with everybody from the top down. We have a VIP group program where we do that over 4 months with 10 people, and then 2 of the pieces that we have, we sell as individual courses. So what we call a social media boot camp and then core content, we sell separately. And as I said, depending on where people are at, how much of a self-starter they are, how much holding they want, how much support they feel that they need, we fit people into one of those three zones.
Right.
Same work, it's just how much of me they get, really.
Exactly. Access.
They can get me in a 1 to 50 OCO, which I'm doing right now with the boot camp. They can get Lindsay and I in a 1 to 10 in core content, or they can get one-on-one with VIP Platinum. I got a cup. I got two more. Just bear with me a second. I'll show you what I mean. I'm enjoying this. I'm really feeling like we're connecting already. I love what you do. I'm just you.
And super feisty people.
That's my kind of gal.
I can't hide it. I might as well just tell you.
I haven't sat in my office for 6 days, so I'm just
you have to get real recalibrating.
Yeah, I don't have as many tabs open as normal. In fact, I do have it open, but it's on my second screen. But anyway, just give me. I have my computer I have a big Mac, and it completely crashed when I loaded Wahavi. I was too early in doing it, and it was a bug that they didn't tell anybody about, and took 8 days to get my computer back, and then the day after I left. So there's still some things that are not working. But anyway, and it was only 9 months old. It wasn't. It was an old machine. So okay, so you should see that. Yeah.
Yep, I got it.
So this is me on Lisa's stage just a couple of days ago. I took one of my latest new pictures, and we call it your next evolution. So this is where people have got a brand, but really it's too small for where they're at right now. And what we say is in as little as 90 days, we could do this, because we're finding that what's going on in people's heads and where their heart is and what the goal is bigger than who they are online. So my thing is like, you've done well, you've got your foot in the water, you've made some money, you know you're on purpose, but it's not doing what you want it to do now. So what we say to people is, are you positioned? If someone was to find you on a mobile phone, is that working? Does your brand, I mean, I'm not all about logos, but I am. Does your brand really reflect who you are?
Right.
When they get to that download, is there a way of really getting value out of what you do, but without giving away the farm, too much coaching, but enough to them to say yes? When they get to your website, is it like, wow, I love this. Oh my gosh, could you imagine working with this person? So it's very, very customized. And then what I say to people is like, okay.
No more website shame.
The amount of people I say, show me your website. I'd rather not. Why not? I hate my website. I should have rebuilt it years ago. I paid a lot of money to somebody. I thought I was doing the right thing. I hate it. I said, well, we got to get past that. So then, that's it. I was like, I get it. You're ready to upgrade and create a world-class experience. It's like, you're a superstar and nobody knows it, So the first thing we do is like, let's get that story right. You know, I worked with this girl in Mexico. We went to Mexico for a week to work on her story, and we had a lot of fun. And by the end of it, done. So we did that. And it's like, so let's look at who you are online. I mean, this is a nursing home chain
Mm-hmm.
we work with. Like, do people really get how long you've been around and what that looks like? And then, okay, when we get to your brand, is it really doing, is it speaking to people and your ideal client without you having to say a word?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all the collateral that might go with that. Are you so busy already that you don't really have time to do it, but you know what you want to say? You just need someone to come along and do it with you. So, you know, yeah, I get that. Okay, great. Well, we use Basecamp and we set all these dashboards up and we have all of these deadlines. And the one thing you'll never hear me say is, oh, you didn't ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we, you know, we make sure we cover off out, and then we get to the content. This is Lindsay and Susan, actually, that Susan became a client and now is a team member, but this is this desk. This is how we do, you know, multiple screens, multiple stories, and really working on the content that truly converts. And we do this in many different industries, and video and PDFs and graphics and so on. And then it's the point of like, oh my gosh, I love my website. It's working. It's branded. People, you know, this was Augie's website when we started with them. Like now, I mean, quantumly different. And then the testimonies that come out of that, and we help people to get the right kind of testimonies and to be able to share it in such a way that people are like Donna's 62. I mean, she said, I've had 3 websites. I've spent over $50,000 on websites and I hated them all. Now I don't even spend a third of that, and I've got something that I'm in love with and it's working for me. And we have clients from all different ages, you know, and then we just say, you know, we have everything you need. Between Lindsay and I, you know, we work that together. This is a lady I worked with in Provence, France. I mean, she's just launched this international wedding planning agency now. She's so happy. And then I go into what we do and how we do it. So I'm selling the destination, right? Now I'm building the plane a little bit, you know? This is what you get. And if you work with us, you get all of these courses as well. And then this is who we are, and this is my team, and this is what we do for you, and this is who I am. And we even did it for eWomen Network, you know, and this is my typical, this is who I'm on my way to, so that's why I have to get out the door in a minute, this franchise plumbing client. And yeah, that's how I do it, and that's how I do it for other people, so that by the time they get to the bottom of the page, they're already sold. But through the page, there's like, oh, yes. And then I know I've done my job well.
Yeah, because you have the whole story laid out throughout.
Yeah. And anywhere in between. I mean, I teach that as a group. I don't build it for people, but you know, in a group, they can get all of that as well. And we start the next group January 14. Or people can just say, I just want to get better at social media, or I really know how to create content that converts. Okay, awesome. You can do that too. Invariably, people upgrade from one to the other. And anyway, I really like the idea of the group, but I don't really do that well in groups. I just want it done. All in my head, I just got to get it out there. And I went, okay, we have that too. So
well, and I think, and I think that's good, because I think that what happens is once I get into something, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this, and then it turns, and all of a sudden you're like, no, that's it. I have to do it this way, you know. It's just like this, like you have to keep going. So awesome. And then, so I can, if you send me over can I get there just from your website, or do you have a lead page that you can send me? Because that way I can go through and look at it, and you can get on your.
So where you fill that form in, same website.
Okay.
Just a couple of tabs over, but I'll give you a link to that specific page.
Okay.
Which is here. It's just in the chat box there. But yeah, everything's on the same site. I have a completely separate site, which is myname.ca, which is my speaking site. That I created and I haven't worked on for 6 months. So my goal before the end of the year is I actually just got a gig at the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, both as a presenter and a sponsor. And that's December, when is it? December 6, 7, 8, 9. So pretty soon. And that's the thing is, you know, I literally got a call from somebody who'd canceled as a sponsor and a presenter, and guy just see me online on my way to Alberta. He said, speak to Jane, she needs to talk to you. I called this lady in Montreal. She said, we just had somebody completely drop out. We need a half-hour breakout keynote. We need someone who can do a booth, who can help all of our members with marketing. It's stupid short notice. And I went, I got it. I already have the keynote. I have exactly what they need. I can show up. And it's in Vancouver. It's like, hello. It's like an hour from where I live. So I literally confirmed that yesterday.
But I think
because you're ready, right?
Right. That's what I was going to say. That's the power. That's the power of being ready.
Yeah.
Because then you're not like, well, I've got to develop this whole thing, and I don't even have slideshows, and I don't even have
and as I say, this has been 9 years in the making. 3 years that I've been in overdrive, because this is how my ripple effect worked. Because I was doing super well in British Columbia, and I knew I could do super well everywhere else, and I just didn't quite know how. And Lisa works with people in 37 countries, and it's like, okay, how does she do that? And that's what I learned and leveraged. And her system is, I love it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever not be a sassy. I'm in my year 4, and I happily pay, because every time I see her speak, it's a different level for me. I learn more
you're different.
and more. Each time I come there, I'm at a different place. So yeah, anyway,
exactly.
I'm sorry, I have to shoot, but
okay, yeah. And then I've got that in the chat.
Let's carry on through Facebook Messenger, and then to something that I can help you with. I would love to. I mean, I totally feel a connection at a mom level, at a friend level, at a spiritual level. Yeah, that's very exciting.
I'm excited. I think that's where I'm like, I'm putting everything together, and I'm like, I know that once, like, as I get things together, then I get the right person at the right time for my next, my next step.
Yeah. One thing I'll tell you about, we haven't published yet till Monday. We're doing a Black Friday deal on the social media bootcamp, of course, at a price that I don't sell it at. I mean, it's $19.97 typically. I sell it as an early bird at $9.97. This is a 5-week live course with 10 sessions. But I'm Black Fridaying at $7.97, and I'm actually giving, I've never done this before, I'm giving people access to the Academy live now. So they can go, I just finished delivering it 2 weeks ago. So they get access to for the first time, they get full access to the Academy ahead of doing it live. So you can go through the whole course between now and the new year, and then redo it again with me live. Any client that works with me, I still put them through bootcamp. Even if they say, I don't want to learn it, I just need you to do it all for me. I mean,
they know.
We have a group of businesses that actually we do it all for them. And that's what these guys are. But even so, I still need to get their brain working the way my brain works in terms of what social media strategies should be. So bootcamp is where I send everybody, no matter what they do. So, and then if people go to a higher program, they use that. That's only their deposit paid kind of thing. So
awesome.
But that's coming out Monday as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely send me over the information for that, because I think that would be something that I could get started.
You betcha.
In tandem, like as I'm going through and developing things, I like to test them.
Yes.
You know, I do it, I test it, I do it, I test it, you know, like so that I can see what the feedback is. And then I'm not too far down the road, you know, and implementing something.
Absolutely.
And then like get this response like, no, we don't like your vegan cookies. You know, I mean, like, I'm not that committed, right? You don't have this whole vegan dinner. Just try the cookies first. See if they'll eat those before you go full on.
Funny, I came home last night and there's chocolate brownies in a glass bowl in the kitchen. It's saying, these contain eggs and corn syrup. Maddie, they're not yours. They're mine, Ellen. Because Maddie can't have any cornstarch or any eggs. Although they're both gluten free, but there's certain things that Maddie can't have that Ellen can. So I saw this post-it note and went, oh, that's kind of funny.
Yep. And my daughter's vegan and my son has a peanut allergy. So. Oh yeah. Yeah.
My eldest daughter is sesame and eggs. So I tell you, GMO has just messed up our kids' lives. I mean, it's terrible, really. But what do you do? What do you do?
I don't know. I keep eating vegetables.
That's a good plan.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
That's a good plan.
Have a great day, and send me over the link for that so I can get started.
I think I have to check in with my team because I've been out of here for too long. But it's built. It's not published. I know that for sure, but it's going out on Monday. So yeah, I will for sure.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Have a great day.